This is the centrepiece of the exhibition, the largest painting. It's called She is an Even Tripod, and it's a kind of ode to my wife, Michelle, who was a tremendous stabilising influence, which of course three pedal appendages often provides a tremendously steady base. Cannot be buffeted either way. Whereas I have uneven leg length. I have one leg longer than the other because my mother smoked consulate menthol cigarettes when I was a baby. This idea of a sock full of offal doesn't reflect what is actually going on under the trousers. It's a piece of visual hyperbole, which is something I specialise in. It's my stocking trade, if you will.
Stocking trade?
Stocking trade, that's good, yes. The Lord wasn't as generous with the old turkey baste as I've actually depicted here. That might be seen as a bit braggadly. But it was simply a visual balance to the thing. It created a kind of three-pronged figure which seemed to work. It kind of echoed the three prongs of the wife's limbs here, look. It's painted in oil paint, and it's mixed with all manner of lovely things to give it texture, to give it an active surface, and some asemic glyphs there. They don't. They mean exactly what you want them to mean. So if you recognise them, you're probably right. Okay, she's an even tripod.
Go.
The cameraman says I'm not very well lit, but I think the focus of this little talk are the images on the wall. But if you'd like to see a better lit version of me, come along to the exhibition, because I'll be painting over back in the turbine shed, and there's excellent reception throughout Herefordshire, and I do appear in high definition alongside my uneven limbs. This one is called Who Left You There? And it features a favourite piece of a kind of all over element of mine, which is the plankton, the fantasy plankton, which not only suggests teeming life, teeming microscopic life, but suggests the underground. It suggests you're seeing the ground in section, so it adds to the diagrammatic nature. Because I was brought up on diagrams. My dad was a physicist. I was brought up on diagrams, and I've often enjoyed the very general aspect of diagrams, and turning them into something particular seems delightfully perverse. Mistaking the general for the particular. It's brilliant fun. You should try it at home with proper supervision. Maybe get there are general to particular transmogrifying party coordinators that you can order online. A very nice bunch. They're fully qualified, and I don't think they charge much. I think it's just a donation to charity. Moving on, this isn't by me. This is it's lovely, isn't it? It's a lovely piece of work. And this is colourful, but it's a Japanese fellow, and there's no label on it, so I can't tell you which Japanese fellow it was, but it was certainly one of them who did this. Yeah, one of the Japanese artists operating in Japan today. Over here, Scribnals. Now, Scribnals, I've explained here exactly what Scribnals are. They come from doodles. You remember scratching with a compass point little images onto your school desk, or discovering images on your school desk that have been scratched by somebody else, which are even more fascinating. And you can imagine your imagination breathing life into those scribbles, and suggestions of colour starting to fill the lines. And these are painted in acrylic, but with lots of textural additions: flour, sand, ground cat litter, and talcum powder, fufu powder, which I buy online in large quantities, obviously, because being an endomorph, large quantities of fufu powder, particularly in the summertime, are a prerequisite of personal comfort. Okay, we don't want to put too fine a point on that, because this is, after all, a family feature. You come and have a look. You can have a look at them closely. We've got our magic car, Nature's Humid Nighty, Bird Lake Hotel. These are all part of a performance I did recently and a few years back called Scribnals. There's a piece of music that accompanies them all, and you can find that on YouTube. Yeah, Bird Lake Hotel, in fact, this is a nice fact, is based on a posh hotel, well, sort of a posh hotel, sort of medium range hotel in Peterborough, which had a spa with fluffy towels, dressing gowns, complimentary slippers in the rooms, and tea and coffee making facilities, had sachets of a wide range, everything from Caro, the Mormon version of Ovaltine, to powdered Bovril. And the biscuits were to die for. There were biscuits to suit all tastes. There were biscuits for people of a dark and serious disposition, and there were biscuits for people who were of a fluffy bent, and you could get into those packets really quite easily. But the other ones were a bit of a challenge, like sort of Hessian and stapled. And I thought, nah, I didn't bother with them. If you dumped them with the Hessian still on, what you got was this lovely sort of soft bundle of Hessian with liquefied biscuit inside, which was good. So that was this hotel in Peterborough, and it was surrounded by a parkway which was full of rabbits. And if you can imagine, coming back to Japan, a Japanese painter or a poet from medieval times contemplating the hotel and its environs, and coming up with a piece of music or a poem which would be roughly equivalent to this image. Now, this is a family group. Think of it as an intuitive Polaroid of yourself and your relatives, and if you don't have any relatives around at the moment, then perhaps borrow somebody else's relatives and invite them round and if you gaze into a mirror, but if you gaze into one of those mirrors that's very, very mildewed, like you buy from a very badly run bric-a-brac shop, and you gaze into that with your borrowed relatives, and the image is very, very sketchy, very vague, very misty, and you have to bring intuition in to understand, to make sense of the image, to see the face according to its very simple primary features, 2 eyes and a nose and so forth, and then build the identity up from that, you see. And that was a little bit of arty bollocks, especially for you. Now, this is cyclist menaced by a dog. It happened to me. That, in a way, is me. It's, I think it's a kind of tidally eroded version of Edward Woodward playing me on a bike, an orange bike, which dates it, doesn't it? And a small attack dog, particularly popular in Leeds, where I live. There's lovely sort of fondant chocolate icing that you get along the curbs in Leeds, are produced by these piping bags known as Staffordshire Bull Terriers. But I was chased by a couple of these cycling on my way to work, and it jithered me. It didn't produce quite the amount of blood there. I mean, this poor fellow looks like he's on the verge of exsanguination, but I was more shocked than anything. I had to sit down and have a pretty stiff bovril, I can tell you. Okay, we'll pass the window. This is just a gap in the wall that's been glazed as a means of letting in light, and it lets out light at night. If the shutters are open and these lights are on and it's dark outside, it has an opposite effect. So it's a sort of two-way thing depending on the time of day. But there's a window sill, and you can pop cacti in yogurt pots on there. You can pop those beautiful little porcelain horses with realistic little horse brasses on there, and Spanish flamenco dolls. They're brilliant. And those clockwork nodding Madonnas you can get, but they're a bit intensive with batteries there, particularly during Septuagesima. Now this is a photograph it's appeared in the background of a photograph in the newspaper in Otley of me and the Lady Mayoress. Now, I'd upset the Lady Mayoress by not curtailing a conversation I was having with somebody the moment she walked in the door. Andy, the Mayoress is here. I thought, well, I'm just talking to somebody at the moment, but I'll be with you in a minute, Lady Mayoress, Your Honour, Your Queen, or whatever you prefer to be called, Your Fragrance. And yeah, so she was a bit upset, so she wouldn't talk to me, but she stood next to me and she came to about there. And she was standing underneath this picture of a revolver, and I just asked her how heavy her chain was and did she take it off at night, and she thought the question was impertinent, but was too polite to tell me so. This again is acrylic and oil, acrylic underpainting, oil. I often do, it appeared in black and white originally, and I often do preparatory painting in black and white, grisé painting they call it, where you establish all the tones and then you work with the colours, glaze the colours over the top, and then sort of get a little paste here with the colours and put some highlights in. And it's the way the old masters work. I'm not comparing myself to the old masters at all. I think it's grossly unfair to them. Over here, we have dog and bird at play. Self-evident. Another thing, lots of polymer resin used and sand and various things to thicken the paint. And the paint surface was sculpted with a palette knife to create surface features which you could which curled the paint off the brush if you wanted to put highlights on there, so it sort of catches the highlights. It's a lovely technique, that is. Yeah, so this is Dog and Bird at Play. This goes with a piece of music which originally I got from a pair of scissors. I recorded a pair of scissors. I wanted to get the rhythm from the pair of scissors, just going whoosh, 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 like that. And the 5 minutes I took playing this thing, looking into these scissors, I started to see images, the light passing through the scissors, and of course the visual receptors in the brain start to play tricks, and I saw a dog and a bird sort of wrestling in a friendly way with one another, like siblings, with a very good-natured rivalry, having a tussle in this rather idealised, jewel-like countryside with this beautiful misty summer sky. Yeah, so that's a good one. You know, if I was to recommend a painting for animal lovers, that certainly would loom large in a small list I prepare for you. Now, over here. This one is called I Offer You My Thinking Hand. Something I like to draw attention to is the way people talk with their hands, because everybody picks up on hand language. I mean, I'm flailing away like some sort of holy roller Baptist from Kentucky today. I'm not, you see, I'm not. I'm rather a godless sort of fellow, really. But I like Old Testament prophets, will make gestures with my hands this way. And I thought, try and reflect that in a sort of diagrammatic form, as if you're making a complex symbol in the air, that way. This piece often reminds me of Peter Firmin's animations. Remember Peter Firmin, who did Noggin the Nog and Ivor the Engine, people like that. The sort of very simple animation where they'd either be, they were mostly in profile, sort of bending backwards and forwards or walking very simply, and sometimes looking directly at you, but only very occasionally. So that's what that reminds me of. And the lady who framed these did a beautiful job of getting them to float, because they were mounted on, the canvas scraps mounted on card, and I used bathroom paint over very, very, very thick layers of dried PVA, and it cracked like this. Originally it wasn't an intention. I evolved it into a technique, and that's what happened. Yeah, so I'm chuffed with that one. Yeah. Now, artists aren't supposed to be chuffed with their work. I know it's supposed to be a very soul-corroding struggle. But I look elsewhere for my self-corroding struggles, and tend to enjoy a piece of work that I've created. Sometimes, you know, I'm not Superman. You know, it can't be perfect. You know, I know that. I think perfection is really, it's a big subject to get into. But you know, you look at people on American soap operas, and then you've got physical perfection, and it is quite ugly. it's quite repellent, isn't it? You know, fiberglass hair, blemishless foam skin and all that sort of jazz. I don't know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, please write in and let me know, and then we'll both be wise. To the orientation of this bullshit, this one is Koi Posy Giver. Very, very textured, lots of sand and cat litter, and used a little bit of a pointillistic technique there, a la Surat Signac, and scoring with the palette knife and so forth. I was very pleased with the way the lights here brought the orange out. Right, we've got to move on quite a bit now, so I'm going to stop here and I'll see you in 2 seconds. Cut!